Chapter 6. Just Go. Dylan and Wade Cole stood emotionless at the end of a low, sterile hospital bed as the man they called father gasped his last breaths. Green paper gowns haphazardly covered the front of the men's jeans and t-shirts. Wade's clenched fists were stuffed deep into the pockets of his worn, faded pants. His light brown hair offset his already ruddy skin, which was becoming redder as his emotions built. Dylan held one tense muscular arm across his body, his other hand raised to his mouth as he chewed a thumbnail. His hospital mask hung uselessly down his chest. It had been years since either had spoken to their father. Didn't want to be around him then, don't want to be near him now. This needs to be over. They both stared at their father, who shook and quivered as he lay on the crisp, white sheets. The immense effort it took for him to haul in another breath of air caused the metal bed frame to rattle. Dylan narrowed his eyes and watched as the sick man clung to what tortured life he had left. Just go. Leave. Thought it a million times. What's one more? Dylan pressed his lips together a few times before raising a hand to rake through his dark, shaggy hair as he examined the man in the bed. The damage done by the disease in the last 2 days had devastated the man. His father's pale, ashen skin made his blue-tinted lips seem more vibrant than they were. Red-tinged foam bubbled from his mouth with each gurgled breath, trailing over his lips and down the side of his face. His limbs, taut and awkward, were almost unusable. Dylan felt the old fire stir in the pit of his stomach. The monster he is on the inside has crept to the outside. He gave a long audible sigh to relieve the turmoil building up and reassured himself that it was all ending now. He raised his gaze to skim over the others laying in the vast, echoing room. Ain't less than a couple hundred here. These were the lucky ones. The virus within them would spread swiftly, killing them before the week was over. Others would last longer. Much longer. Still, these sick had overwhelmed the town's small doctor's office within days. So, the authorities had closed the school to classes and opened the gym to the ill, no matter the phase of their disease. At the side of most beds, loved ones gathered around the sick, gowned and masked in the same green paper. Some offered comfort to the dying while others sobbed into their hands. Dylan dragged his eyes to his brother standing beside him and saw Wade's harsh, unrelenting gaze on his father. Stone-faced and cold, just like me. It's what he taught us. Dylan turned his own glare back to his father, who now had tears in the corner of his eyes. He shouldn't be surprised. The nurse hurried in to check on her patient. She adjusted his IV, upping the dose of pain medication so that each drip would ease his passing. Dylan shook his head. He doesn't deserve the mercy. He never gave mercy to nothing or nobody his whole life. The nurse walked up to Dylan and Wade and whispered, "It won't be long now," then briskly went to the next patient. She offered no word of comfort or sympathetic squeeze of the hand for this patient. She knows what he is. He scanned the room, taking in the many faces turned toward his family. They all know. After a few minutes, their father's frantic gasping stopped. He tried to lift his hand up to his son's as if in supplication. Then his head slid on the pillow, and his eyes went blank. The brothers looked at each other. Twin weights shifted and rose from their shoulders, easing them of a burden they'd known from the moment they were born. They each acknowledged it with only a small nod. "It's over now," Dylan said. "After today, everything will be different." Wade gave a slow nod. "I feel better already." Checking other patients on her way, the nurse came back to them. As she carefully explained the restrictions placed on the medical staff by the disease control for the care of the dead, Wade was quick to interrupt her. "Do what you gotta do, it don't make no difference to us." "Will you be staying?" the medical worker asked. "No," said Wade. "We're already gone." He turned and headed to the door. Dylan took a moment to thank the nurse for her help, then followed Wade out. At the exit, the men peeled off the protective gowns and masks, revealing their shirts, each with one too many holes. They shoved the paper into the gray plastic garbage bin that stood by glass doors. When they reached the outdoors, Wade gazed at the bright blue sky before looking at Dylan. "How long do you think it takes to get to hell anyways?" Dylan let out a deep sigh as he ran a hand around his tan neck. The way he was, I always reckoned we were already there. They were silent as they walked to their weathered, red truck. Dylan took the worn driver's seat and fired the engine. He leaned back for a minute staring out the front windshield, so many emotions flooding through him, he didn't know which one to focus on. He gave up and sent his brother a questioning look. Wade gave him a sharp nod. Dylan pulled out onto the road and headed for the one and only place either man had ever considered safe.